Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for taking this time with me. This sort of experimental approach to reflecting on your teaching. You had said a number of times in your journal entries that one thing that you didn't like about how the students were responding to one another as well as to you in the Hamlet unit was that they were showing a level of disrespect.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure from the comments that you made in your journal whether or not that level of disrespect had to do with just classroom behavior or whether there was some connection with what they were reading and the difficulty of the play they were reading, and whether that contributed.
I don't think it contributed that much to what they were reading, because I did have them work in groups to translate, and they did really well in that area, so that was fine. It was more of when I'm teaching, they would have side conversations, or when somebody was speaking, someone else would have a side conversation, and it's like, that's not okay.
Right.
And then they would just start packing up before the bell rings, and she's like, all right, she's still teaching, but I don't care. And I'm just like, no, we're not doing this.
Right, right.
And then Jane pointed out to me, she's like, you just totally let them disrespect you. And I was like, I know, but it was like, you're here, I didn't know what I could say, what I couldn't, so it kind of like made me double guess myself, it was bad.
Right, and Jane is your cooperating teacher
yes.
for this senior class. Is there a reason why that behavior hadn't been as obvious or maybe as frequent when you were reading the Camus earlier?
When we were reading Camus, they were much quieter. They didn't say anything. And then once we started getting into Hamlet, they were just like, nope.
Right.
Not gonna pay attention.
Right.
It could have been any number of things, so I tried to like backtrack, and then I went too long for a certain lesson, and they're like, you had to move on. And they just got bored, and then they just started disrespecting me, and I was like, this is not okay. We need to fix this.
Right, right.
So then I had to move them all around.
Right.
Separate all the friends, and it's really hard because they've known each other for all 4 years. They know each other, they've had classes together. It's a lot harder to figure out who can't sit next to whom.
Right, right, right. When you started some initial discussions of moving from the discussion of Plato's allegory of the cave, which concluded or came right after the discussion of Hamlet, and you said you're looking forward to moving to your next unit on Oedipus Rex because it's a play that you really love. What do you see as ways that you're going to teach differently with, of course, a work of literature that you already know you're more anxious to teach than Hamlet, which, as I recall, you were a little intimidated.
Yeah, Hamlet's very intimidating because there's multiple informations, there's multiple perspectives, and it's a lot harder to teach that, especially with that language. But with Greek mythology and Roman mythology, everything in that area is just so much more interesting to me. It's a lot more fascinating, which will help show that to the students, because it was like they could see that I was very scared about teaching Hamlet, and that kind of led over into a little bit into Allegory of a Cave, but not so much.
Yeah, I didn't notice it
today. Allegory of a Cave I felt a little bit better, because I was like, okay, Hamlet didn't work, and this is probably why, so let's change it. So I really changed what we did.
Yeah. Although that seemed to have to do in part with your conscious decision to make sure that a larger number of students were contributing to the discussion, both from the Socratic seminar, and then you said after they wrote the response to the quick write, you were going to make sure to get answers from those students who hadn't spoken up in the Socratic seminar.
Exactly, because the Socratic seminar was so great, because I just let them go, and I just let them talk. However the conversation went, that was perfectly fine. I didn't have to comment at all, and I thought that was fantastic, because it was more, it wasn't just the same 3 people that were talking the whole entire semester. It was 12 people that I had not heard from. And I thought that was great, because I was like, this is what you guys are thinking? You guys are so on track. You know this.
Right.
But why aren't you saying it to me?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you were much more comfortable talking to each other, which is why I had them talk in the groups today.
Right.
Which worked out a lot better.
Yeah, dividing into 5 different groups according to the question you'd assigned to them.
I had changed that. I was like, I thought I wanted them to do all 5 of them, and I was like, you know what? This is not going to work as well as I want it to. I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
And it worked out a lot better because I even had them respond to different questions they didn't answer.
Right.
Which kind of got their brains thinking.
Right. And how did the group select the person who was going to report out from?
They did it on their own. They
own.
decide they wanted to. I just said, make sure you have at least 2 people to talk.
Right.
Say what it's about.
Right.
And I had one group that only had 1 person, and then I called on the people that I don't hear from. I was like, come on, your voices work. I know they do.
Right.
Let's use them.
So consciously selecting students, particularly when you know they've already discussed something in small groups.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a terrific perspective and orientation to bring with you for Oedipus Rex.
Yeah.
So we'll have to stop this part of our film conversation now just because we have a limited amount of time for the film clip. But we'll talk more after that, after the film clip, about what you plan to do with your Oedipus Rex.